Hello and welcome. My name is Paweł Piwosz and you are listening to Last Week in IT, the weekly podcast. Together with my fantastic co-hosts, Jakub Siwiecki and Jan Mazurek, we'll give you our perspectives on recent news, events, announcements and many more. And we do it in our own style. Join us and enjoy the show. Hello, and this is our sixth episode of our podcast where we explore the SysOps DevOps report, and this time we will talk about recruitment. And this is a very important part of the whole life in the IT market, in the whole market really, because this is the moment where we touch the company and company, well, I know how it sounds, but touches us, right, for the first time. And we need to learn more. We need to present ourselves. We need to be part of the process, sometimes tough, sometimes annoyed, sometimes even nice. I was in that
Why are
kind
you
of
saying
processes.
that we need? We don't need.
Um,
But
well,
the thing is, if you ever want to change a job, right, you need to participate in this beauty pageant. Look at me, I'm so beautiful, I'm so pretty, I'm so smart, I'm the best
yeah,
candidate.
I'm the best
Ooh.
one. Why? Because I say so, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's we don't need, right? But I think if we talk about our parents, for example, right, they were in the one place for many years, and I think that was like a general in the previous years. But now the market is very dynamic, very explosive sometimes, right? We have a lot of new companies. Some companies are closed very quickly. We can think about startups. Those are like ephemeral institutions, right? So they are here and then they just are closed because it didn't work, right? So on this market, the dynamics is very high. That's why we also need to be dynamic here. So yeah,
So
maybe you don't need to, but you
change in
will be
recruitment
forced
is
to.
just a constant way of being on the market.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
But it's also, there is a funny thing. I heard an interesting quote about loyalty for the employer. That in Poland, you are a loyal employee if you work 5 years for the same company, right? But for example, in South Korea, you are a loyal employee if your grandfather worked there the entire life, your father worked their entire life, and you worked there already for 20 years. Then you are identified as a loyal employee.
So
of course, it's just
potential candidate for to be loyal, right?
yeah, that's like a for
Yeah,
stereotype.
that's true. And what is loyalty in this case? Right?
Good that you mentioned this, because I'm just looking at SysOps DevOps report, and I see when there is a question, what irritates you most when it comes to recruitment process, and the first answer is lack of feedback. And I will be honest, it irritates me as well, as someone who I did many recruitment processes in my career, and I always, that was like, I felt that this is like some kind of like dignity, I must answer each person, because I could be on their place like anytime, and I believe that when I'm a candidate, this is something that I would like to know as well, like any kind of feedback.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you get hundreds of recruitment letters or letters of intent, right? Will you be able to reply to 100
Hey,
candidates?
come on! Nowadays you have systems, even like, if like just click one click and everything is done. Like, it's just like a second.
Yeah,
Blink
okay,
of an
but
eye.
so would you like to receive like just a generic message and just like a generic information? Sorry, not this time. Please apply in 6 months. Would that be just
Okay,
fine, or
that
would you
would
like to
be.
have a more
Mhm.
personalized message about why you did not qualify to the next
we
stage.
we have two phases here, because one is where you send your CV and it is rejected because of lack of skills, whatever, in your CV. So this is like a phase 0, right? So here you will never receive like personalized feedback, because on what base, right? But the second phase, I would say, here is when you had the interview with real people, right? So the interviewer rejected you for some reasons, and
Yeah.
here, first of all, you are like a subset of all people who send the CVs, right? So the number of people is smaller than those hundreds, thousands. And generally, when you interview people, you write your feedback to the recruiters, right? Oh, this candidate is good because this candidate is bad because this and that, right? So this can be used.
Well, partially. I remember there was one of the companies from Krakow region. There was a huge scandal because the person from the recruitment team sent the full feedback conducted by the technical interviewer, right? So some of the informations that is provided in the feedback potentially could be shared with the candidate, right? Some of this shouldn't, and
True.
I definitely prefer, like, because I know sometimes recruitment is a lengthy process, and people are annoyed by the fact that they need to participate in 2, 3 stages or need to wait a couple of days for the feedback. But from my experience, I prefer to, uh, how my friend phrased it nicely, sleep with the candidate before writing the feedback, just so that the emotions of the interview itself will calm
Mhm.
down, and I would have a fresh perspective on the next day. And maybe I would need to watch the recording that the interview was recorded, but
Mhm.
at least I would have an opportunity to write just feedback and without any kind of emotions, because emotions are usually bad advisors.
Well, of course, emotions could be bad, but probably sometimes they can be a trigger to change something and to receive something good. But I remember one recruitment process I was involved. I was a candidate, and I received a feedback, so that was
Uh-huh.
a positive thing. But the content of the feedback was, oh man, I cannot quote this, but like the whole, I was even like struggling myself, like, should I publish this and show it to the world? Because
Hmm.
it was so devastating when it comes to using the words. So
Okay.
it was not emotional, but it was so judgmental.
Mhm.
And I completely understand that, like, we perceive you in this way, da, 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 but it could be said in at least 1,000 ways. So the words that were used were rather maybe not like negative, like nothing like bad or something, but there was a lot of labeling
Yeah.
of behavior, which was, as a psychologist, like, I know that we can interpret things in many different ways, and I would like rather to receive a feedback that will refer to some precise information about skills or something that really happened, not just interpretation of this.
Kind of like in
So
a relationship. It's not you, it's me.
it's me.
Yeah, the point is that we talk about this approach from the candidate perspective, right? We are not seasoned people from talent acquisitions. So recruitment for us is generally being from the this, let's say, worse side of the table, right? And
But actually,
mhm.
question from my side: is the participation in the recruitment process something that could be a showstopper for you to take part in the recruitment process itself? I mean, the fact that you need to jump through those obstacles, those hoops, and again
Mhm.
participate in this beauty pageant, because sometimes, uh, imagine if a company would reach out to you and would tell you, Pavel, here is this big bag of money. Come join us. No recruitment, no strings attached. We know you. we recognize you, you have a reputation. Would that be more helpful, or would you still want to know that you
Well,
went to those stages and you
mhm.
managed
You-
to be better than the competitors for the position?
That is a very good question, and I don't know if it will be better or not. For sure, it will be more convenient, right?
Mhm.
Now the point is that you know with experience, with years of experience, with being kind of publicly recognized, you are well. Some of us are stopped being like unknown, right? So there is no really need. For example, if you have person who is participating in a lot of conferences, creating the training programs, etc., 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 right? So you may have some input already, right? You don't need to go with this person through the whole process to really ask, "Who are you, my little friend?"
Fellow. I
So
would say, sorry, just like to connect with the way how the feedback should look in such situation. If I would say that in such case, when there's like experienced person, probably recognized, doesn't matter,
mm,
but like you see that you have on the other side of the table, as you mentioned, someone who really like knows what is doing, an expert. I would say that this person probably like doesn't need like generic feedback. Like this is definitely like
yeah,
something bad. And in such case, like sharing a feedback is extremely difficult, I would say, because you're
it
gonna have
is.
an expert, and you need to have the same experience probably to be on the same page to share a feedback. At least this is like minimum. So it would be extremely difficult for
It's always
someone
the case.
from the talent acquisition. Yeah, sorry.
Do you think that conducting technical interviews helps to participate in the technical interview itself? I mean, if
Yes,
you are the one who is recruiting.
yes, for sure, because you see the behavior of the people, you see how they act, how they respond. You see things which you catching as an interviewer, right?
Mhm,
And you can work on those elements which you recognize as yours as well sometimes
mhm,
to, let's brutally say, fix it, right?
mhm.
Okay, and what is if it's just your interpretation? And like the candidate had a fever that day, let's say.
Yeah, that is true. But again, with the experience, we did a lot of interviews, right, from both sides, really. So this is something what you have more and more experience. You see different things with time, right? You can understand like a hidden messages behind the behavior, and you'll see that someone has fever. I believe this person will just say that, sorry, but I have fever today.
No, not
I
always. Not
Not always
always.
that's true.
You
So
know.
maybe this is also somehow misleading, right? Because we are that
But
good that
sometimes,
we for sure will know. But anyway,
but I've noticed, you know what? Also, sometimes recruiters don't make it easier for us. I mean, they. It seems to me like they are sabotaging the whole recruitment process since the very first day. Because I remember there was the story that Guido von Loom, who was the inventor of Python language, he posted on his blog that he invented the Python language, right? And he was asked by a recruiter in the recruitment process, how many years of experience in Python you have? And he replied, well, all of them. And he didn't get the job just because his answer was identified as impolite or, like obnoxious
yeah,
or whatever, right? But the recruiter themselves did not do a proper research, whom they are interviewing in the first place, right? Now, if, for
yes,
example, I have 20 years of experience in IT and I've been, a business analyst for the last, I don't know, let's say 10 years or 15 years or whatever, and somehow suddenly a recruiter writes to me on one portal or the other saying, please take part in the recruitment process, but we require you to have 2 years of experience as a business analyst. I'm like thinking, is it
Oh,
really
really?
the
Yeah.
the right approach and right offer? And does she has something that would be really able to tempt me right? So I
And
don't
there
know.
is another story, side of this coin, because, for example, I received a couple of times offer for being recruited to the position of Golang developer, and all of this because I have in my profile that as a DevOps engineer, I used to work with the team who write the stuff in Golang, right? So I
So
asked politely what I should fix in my profile to not have more offers like this, and well, sadly, I didn't receive any answers to that questions from recruiters.
also there are now I've noticed a movement on the market because as the whole pandemic comes to an end, there are companies that decides to force employees to come back to the offices,
Yes.
right? And people are saying, "Oh, I've been working for the last 3 years from home. Now, if the company would ask me to come back and to work from the office, that's definitely a showstopper for me, and I will be looking for a new company." Now, do you think this is an opportunity for the employees to look for new offers, or a threat to the companies, or opportunities for the companies to
Mhm. Well,
to acquire more people who.
that's a good point. We spoke about triggers last time, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the trigger. I know people who change their job only because of that, right?
Hmm.
So it's nothing unseen, let's say, right, in the market. So maybe even this trigger sometimes will be more important than money for many people. In both sides, right, in both directions. So I want to be in office. I don't want to have a remote only company. That I know that people as well.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, a good friend of mine, when the whole pandemic started, he had like a 50 square meter flat with 3 kids, and he told me that because the kids were homeschooled and the wife was working from home, he was working from home. It nearly ended up with a divorce. Luckily, it ended up with buying a bigger flat for them. But
so that's a good direction then.
But it depends on because you use the word market.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
we could have a market of employees or employers, and then it affects definitely what people can choose and what companies they can choose to bring back
that's for
people,
sure. That's for sure. Yeah.
or maybe yeah.
And I also
So
used the sentence last time that we are spoiled in IT, right? And here I would say exactly the same because right now it's a little bit worse. But for a long time, I received like 5, 6, 7 offers per day, right? Nice
mhm.
offers. Of course, this is just the like a initial
Yeah,
stuff,
take part in the recruitment, right?
but still, right? There is some invitation. So change of the job for us was reasonably easy, right? And the problem with the recruitment here, I believe, from the candidate perspective, is if you are in something what one of my managers very nicely named continuous recruitation or continuous recruitment. So he was always in the process, just to not lose the momentum, right? Just to not start to be afraid or scared or nervous during the interview if this offer will come, this one offer, right? So if we are as a candidate examined by interviewers from time to time, more often than, for example, 5 years or something, this will be more natural for us, right? There will be less stress, less nervous situation. We will know how to behave, how to act, how to sit, how to speak, etc., etc. If you do it once for 10, 15, 20 years, it's scary like hell, right? So
Yeah, but I think
I
you touch a very.
sorry, I just need to refer to that because
Uh-huh.
in the past I remember that I used to spend a lot of time with women that were coming back to the market after childcare, and that was extremely difficult and challenging for them. And well, we discussed, we found some ways how to discuss, how to present, blah blah blah. But one of the things that I noticed that was decreasing the chances was to thinking that this offer, this interview, this is the one. And I believe that this is like everyone who goes to to join some interview. Nowadays it's more like online version, but
Yeah.
if you join an interview and you're thinking that this is the only one, this one, then definitely you lose a lot, because that affects your state, your mental state. That affects your emotions that Jan mentioned at the beginning. And then if you do something that you perceive, that was probably not the best way to mention this, then it can trigger the rest of your interview. The conversation won't be the best.
But we all had
So
that moment in our life that you think that actually, oh, I wish I would say that. I wish I would, if I would use that argument, things would be definitely different. If I would, not do that, it would be definitely different outcome, right? So we all have that moment.
Every
So
single time.
Yeah, exactly. So we always can be better, right? There's this saying, "My best isn't my good enough."
Right.
And this is a psychological mechanism that from studies we know that it helps you to build new scenarios for future. So
Yeah.
this is something I know, like, no one likes this, probably. It's not my favorite thing and way to spend time. But this is something that builds your future self, your future scenarios. So treat it with respect, I would say.
Yeah, but don't do only projections, right? Also do self-assessment. And I think, Pavel, you touched a very interesting topic, which I think it will be a very good to discuss in our next episodes, when you said that we working in the IT industry are very spoiled. And I think this is something that definitely would be worth to investigate. Why is that? What are the triggers, and what we can do to make things in the IT world better? And I think on this could be a
sounds
good
good.
point to finish this episode and discuss that some other time.
So
Okay,
looking
take
forward
care.
for this discussion then, because this will be interesting one, I believe.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for today, and see you next week then.
Take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye.
And that's it for today. This was Last Week in IT. Thank you for listening, and please join us for the next episode. Follow us on social media, subscribe and comment. If you agree, disagree, or just want to say hello, we are waiting for you. Stay tuned, stay IT.